no end to describing them all. And then Baladev said, the word vibhuti should be understood to mean uniquely powerful objects which define the Lord. Uniquely powerful objects which define the Lord. Amarakosh dictionary says vibhuti means power and wealth. Vibhutir, bhutir ashvaryam. Both common and refined items will be listed here in their capacity as vibhutis. All of these should be known to be the Lord's self to some degree. In that they suggest the powers of the Lord of all things. All of these should be known to be the Lord's self to some degree. In that they suggest the powers of the Lord of all things. So, Vedanta Sutra, Vyas says, Shakti Shakti Matayor Veda, that in the highest level, Shakti and Shaktiman, the Lord and His energies, are one, are no difference. And yet, there are different. One is Shaktiman, one Shakti, so Chincha Veda Veda Tattva. One is the difference. So just because we emphasize the oneness, like Shankara wanted to, it doesn't mean we do away with the difference. And just because we want to emphasize the difference, doesn't mean we should do away with the oneness. But it's hard to keep both things in mind at one time. That's why it's said Achincha. It's not possible to see that. Just like, you know that this thing they show you in psychology class about the vase and the woman's faces? You see that example? You can, some people they see the faces, some people see the vase, right? And then you can go back and you can go back and forth. And sometimes you can see that, sometimes you can see, but you can't see them both at once. But they're both there. So oneness and difference are both there simultaneously. So generally, we are taught, and Krishna's teaching himself, near closer to the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, he's teaching about the difference. He's teaching Bhumir Polalo Vayu Kamanu Buddhir Vacha Hankariti Ame Vedanta Ashtada. These 8 items that your consciousness is enwrapped in: earth, water, fire, air, ether. That's all the objects made up that your senses can perceive. Mind, intelligence, ego, more subtle. My external separated energy. So, separated. Why separated? Because you don't see. So, because we don't see it in relation to the Lord, we're taught more about, okay, don't absorb your consciousness in these things, because they're going to separate you from Krishna. So focus on the chanting, focus on reading the Gita, Bhagavatam. And then, it's interesting, that we also focus on the deity worship, Archana. That here's a way that Krishna is saying, okay, I will be present for you, for your senses, in these material elements. It may look like brass, may look like marble, but I'm present there. If you reciprocate, you treat me in that way. Vachram pushpam palam pilayam, yume bhakti prayashanti. You treat me like I'm here. I'm hungry, you give me some bhoga, I'll give you back prasad. I'll eat and give it to you if you offer with devotion. See, so here's a way that we can reciprocate and start to see Krishna in the elements. Bhumir pungalo vayu. But Krishna's giving something similar. Shukadeva said Bhagavatam and Krishna something similar in chapter 10 about how to see him in all elements. One time somebody else Prabhupada looked at. There was some plane going by, noise. And Prabhupada was talking about how how, which Krishna says in Gita, and this, it's an earlier chapter, the sound and ether. Shabdike, Purusham Nishu, the ability man. And the noise was going by, and somehow, I forget how they had a conversation with that, but Prabhupada said even that sound, it's also Krishna. See, but first we don't, it takes us away. So we're saying, you keep these things away from your senses. So like in Patanjali's yoga, you shut down the senses totally, right? Yam, niyam, and then asana, pratyahar, asana, pranayam, and then pratyahar. We draw the senses and just go inwards, right? Because all those things, you see, we're so much throughout our whole lifetime, we're in this bhoktaram jagatabasam. Mine, for me, I can enjoy that, I need that. Everything, we're claiming all that Shakti out there, all God's energies, that's for me. I'm going to get that. I'm going to enjoy it. That's the way we're trained. Lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. It's not true. We can't do it. So, we're taught in the beginning, push those things away. And just use your senses to focus on spiritual things, which will bring you closer to God. But then ultimately, there's no, when our consciousness is purified enough, there's no Maya. Then we start to see how everything, Vasudeva Sarvati, everything is the Lord. He's present to us in all of His energies. So that's one way of doing it. But we can also understand that He's giving chapter 10 here. Shukadeva is giving in the Bhagavatam. You can go about that way as well. Because in chapter 12 in the Gita, Krishna says, if you can't do this, do this. You can't do this, do this. You can't do this, do this. You see? So he's so liberal that he's always trying to find a way that somehow people can come closer to him. That's why there's so many different religions, so many different yogas, so many different paths like that. And it will definitely help us, even in the midst of our bhakti yoga process, which is based upon Prahlad's 9 items, Navavida Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, like that. Amidst those items, sadhana bhakti, we try to perform those all the time. But again, we can't. We can't do that because we have so many different responsibilities in life. We can't be involved just in those sadhana bhakti activities all the time. So even for us, it's helpful to understand how to connect to Krishna in different representations in this world. So that rather than those things taking us away from Him, they can bring us closer to Him, but we can actually see His hand behind the artistry and magnificence and the power. I'm the light of the sun and the moon. What else? The ability man, purifies them, the wind, the taste of water, the original fragrance of the earth. Okay, we're going to stop here. Just want to go around the room a little bit. We've mentioned about 10 of these examples of Krishna's vibhutis He's giving in the Gita. So, besides the ones we just mentioned, can you mention any? Who? Anyone?
Fine speech in women. He says he's fine speech in women.
Yes, very, very interesting, you know, that he's saying amongst these, amongst women, Prabhupada translates, amongst women I am these qualities, is that how he translates? Can you look? It's in chapter 10. And I just want to show you how Baladev handles this. It's very, very interesting. Please.
Chapter 10, verse 34. I am all devouring death. I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience.
Okay. Baladev actually gives their names. Kirti, Shri, Vak, Smriti, Medha, Dviti, Shama. 7. Okay? And he says in the commentary, among women, the 7 listed here, starting with Kirti, are my vibhutis. Actually personalities or personified qualities. My vibhutis, in which I'm present to a degree, Krishna said. They are deities. Just by possessing a reflection of these qualities, men become praiseworthy. Very interesting. Because of this, I don't know, you hang around ISKCON a little bit, you know there's a raging controversy going on between egalitarianism and or including feminism and well, I mean, you know, they call it the women's issue. So anyway, we're not going to get into that tonight, but this is very, very interesting. This is a very, very interesting take on this verse, which is one of the verses that sometimes devotees go to, and it helps to give some harmony to the whole presentation. So Sri Baladeva Dibhushan ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Shri Krishna Arjuna ki jai. Well, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for listening and patience. So the overall point is somehow we have to become God conscious. That's what we're here for. That's why we exist. And unless we're God conscious, we're not really conscious of what's going on. We're not even conscious of ourselves, because we don't exist in a void. As you know, Prabhu began by pointing out, we have no control of what's going on over our limbs. Or, you know, we want to, you know, people say, well, show me God. Prabhupada says, here, close your eyelid. You can't see anything. Speak of God. We exist, we're part of something. What is it that we're part of? Without addressing that question, what is it we're connected to? Without addressing that question, we'll never feel full or complete. Because we don't exist just by ourselves. Even the materialistic scientists are explaining that, how everything is interconnected these days. The whole global warming issue. What part do we play in that? How many more years do we have? They just said the other day there was a whole big, huge convention again, and a big declaration that they made. And we may only have so many more years before everything starts going crazy in nature. And we're part of the problem because of the way we are trying to live and hoard things instead of acting within the bonds and laws of nature. We don't respect those subtle ways. And we're doing so many things which today we don't understand the ramifications in the future. There are these islands floating in the ocean of how many millions of tons, I can't remember, of garbage, plastic, and stuff like that that isn't going to be going away for a while. It's not very biodegradable. What's going to happen? You drive through the countryside. Again, people have farms which have been farmed for many generations. And they have vehicle upon vehicle, combine, and all these different machines. Dozens and dozens littering up their whole farm, their whole land. What's going to happen with them? What are we going to do with the nuclear waste? Are there Indian reservations in Nevada going to take it for a good price? Dump it in the ocean somewhere, put it in capsules and bury it? I mean, is anybody thinking? It's not the way we're meant to live here. So, you know, for a long, long time, the Christians, some people blame the Christians for the environmental problems we have today because the way they interpreted Jesus' statements were that nothing that goes on here has any purpose. The only thing that's important is your relationship with God. You get it together and wait for Jesus' second coming, and He's just going to take you out of here. And you shouldn't worry about anything else. It's all mundane. It's all material. So sometimes we have the same type of misconception in Hinduism or even in ISKCON, that it's just, you know, something on the side. We don't really have to worry about how we deal with nature or with the animals or with this or that. Or it's not separated like that. The God-conscious person will respect and see God's presence in everything and try to deal with it appropriately. But not as the enjoyer, trying to manipulate and control and exploit all the resources for our senses. But like they say in Christianity, as a steward, as a caretaker on behalf of God.
I want to share an experience that I had recently about what you said. You see, of course, coming from India, you know, invariably you learn to live. I mean, India has been well known for in the past, you know, for recyclable. You know, you have squiller, and you have all these, you know, banana leaves on which you eat and all that. We have always known to be a very environmentally sustainable and recyclable society, but now thanks to modernization, we have been more and more getting to plastics and things like that because of modern cities and so on and so forth. But recently, something interesting happened. When we were with you in Utah, when we spent time with you in Utah for Radhashtami, and we had to make a whole feast with 3 gallons of water. Not only feast, we had to make a feast with 3 gallons of water, and we had to even wash the pots after that with those 3 gallons of water, if you remember. And when I got back to Minneapolis after that, now that we're used to the US standard of, the running water all the time, the amount of water we use, let's say for just washing a couple of pots, a couple of dinner plates or something like that. And I just calculated and I noticed that we were using 3 gallons of water just to wash one plate, one dinner plate that we eat out of. While in Utah, when we were with you and we cooked this whole feast in your van, and we cooked the feast, and after that we also had to wash the pots and thing, and we used only 3 or 4 gallons, well, 3, it's 4, I think 4 gallons of water that we used. And I thought it was very interesting. You mentioned this many years ago, once in Arizona when we were with you many years ago. You mentioned that you really value something when you have very limited resources of it. When you have to operate with only 3 or 4 gallons of water, then you really value water. Otherwise, if water keeps running, then you don't value water so much anymore. So I was just kind of thinking about that. That's an interesting point you're making, about if we can actually see the amount of waste that we create in our day-to-day lives. It's kind of fascinating.
Maybe some of you don't know the story. Prabhupada used to go on morning chapel walks with his disciples, wherever he was in the world. I believe it was in America in the 60s, where they were going past some neighborhood, like this neighborhood, and some person had left their tap water was drinking. And so Prabhupada instructed, go over there, take it out. You could say, well, he has no business. What was he worried about? But he sees it, that it's Krishna's energy. This person may be thinking, it's mine. And what's your business if I want to let my water drip and waste? But just like, for instance, there's a lot of persons that we know who will give some donation for something to be used in Krishna's service, but the item may be very inefficient and unnecessary, and they're thinking like, why do you bother? It's my money. You take. But the point is, it's not your money. There's a problem. By Krishna's arrangement, by his grace, you have some resources at your disposal. And it should be used in the most efficient manner, which ultimately spiritually means that everything should be used for the service of the Lord, except our basic necessities. Prabhupada, I think, was also in New York in early days. He was doing everything by letters in those days, by mail, snail mail. And then eventually telegram came, and then phone, and so many things. But he would write back, and he would open the envelope, take the letter out, and then he would open that envelope and turn it around the other way. Put it together again. Put the letter in, and write on the other side, use the same thing, and send it there. So this is the kind of mentality, you see, of the person who, within 10 short years, created such a huge, hugely successful, opulent movement. You know, with millions and millions of books being published and distributed, and these beautiful temples going up all over the world, the palaces for him, and he started with nothing, and he used with whatever he used was just so, you know, so conscious. And I want to use it and not waste it. So I think we can draw from that Krishna reciprocates. When we use his energy in the proper way, then he's always giving us more to use. He's seeing it, okay, you're using this in the proper way, then I have trust in you and I'll give you more. And so ultimately, as I was saying before, when he trusts us enough, he trusts us so much that we are not going to exploit or try to steal or destroy or waste his energies. We'll just use them for him. Then he'll give us more and more and more. And finally, he'll trust us so much, he'll say, okay, I'm not only willing to give you all these things that I own and share them with you, because I know you're going to use them properly, but I'm going to give you myself. Because now that I know you're not after all this stuff that I have. You know? Just like people are asking, I don't know how much news you read or how much sports news you read, but you know it's a big thing in NFL. You know what NFL is? National Football League? You know, these guys have been here for 3 months, you don't know what right? It's big, huge business in America. It's so big, just to give you an idea, again, understanding how crazy is this society. As I was mentioning, well, what's going to happen to nuclear-based and all these different things. You have a football player. It's a whole big thing now, that there's so much abuse coming. Abuse on girlfriends, on wives, on their kids, their sons. And the public is putting so much pressure on the owners now. What are you going to do about this? So one fellow's been put on paid leave while the system goes through the courts. He plays once a week to carry the football from here to there, once a week. Now he's being paid not to play because the public's putting so much pressure because he has this abuse case. And you know what he's getting paid for every week? $670,000 not to pay. So my point is, what kind of society is this that is willing to give so much money into the system to pay these guys who are really nothing more than big glorified gorillas $1 million a week for doing nothing? Well, we have so many people around the world. You look at what's going on in Iraq and different places now. And how many people are being dispossessed of their homes, and hundreds of thousands just lucky they can just walk away from the war scene with nothing. And this is going on. It's madness. It's total insanity. How long can it go on? So, what was the point about the abuse? The
mentality, we'll start with Prabhupada's mentality and how Krishna sees you. If you're using his energy properly, he gives himself more and more.
And finally, you're right, very good. He'll give you himself because we are yeah. Okay, thank you very much. It's so nice to have a personified memory, you know? Present. I could just... Yeah, so another one of them, he was caught on camera punching out his girlfriend in an elevator. They were having some argument, he smashed her and was caught on camera. I just knocked her out. He had to drag her out of the elevator. And then she became his wife. This is the point. And now she's complaining. Why are you stripping him of his job? And why are you making such a big fuss of this? And people are asking, what kind of crazy woman are you? Marrying a guy after he knocks you out cold, drags you out of the elevator. Is there anything else besides the money in our relationship? So that's my point, is even if people go to God, as Krishna said, Chatur Vida Bhajanti Narjana Sikritin Arjuna Arto Jigasa Artarti Gyani Chat Bharatarshila. 4 kinds of persons come to me, worship me after some service, because they want something. Dhanam Dehi, Rupam Dehi, Rupapati Bhajam Dehi, give me. But Krishna says, they're pious. Janasrikitina Arjuna. Srikritina, they're pious, they're good. At least they're coming to you for something. But after so many lifetimes of not coming to God, and then so many lifetimes finally, please help me. Please give me this. You know, I can't do it by myself. Please help me pass this test. Please give me a good life. We're pious. We're going to the Lord and asking Him, understanding that He's in control of everything. Right? Ultimately, I need His help. That's very good. But after so many hundreds of thousands of lifetimes we may be doing that, finally we come to the point where we're thinking, you know, Krishna, I'm not really interested in any of this stuff you want to give me. See, Dhruva Maharaj, you know, the boy Dhruva, he stopped, went to the forest to do the yoga, to become the big king, bigger than his father. And he stopped breathing. When he stopped breathing, all the air stopped. Well, the demigod said, you have to do something, Krishna. We can't live like this. So he went to Dhruva and said, what do you want? Dhruva fell at his feet and said, Lord, I want nothing. I was looking for the universal kingdom, like Brahma, my grandbrother, had. But now that I have you, I want nothing. You're like diamond. I was looking for people like particles of grass, shards of grass, glass, broken glass. And now I have you like a diamond. I don't want anything else. So when we come to that point, that's not these things we want of Krishnas, but we want Krishna. And Krishna said, okay, if I can trust you like that, I'll give you myself. So that's what he's giving to the Godhead place. Like that. And that's what he's saying. He can give himself such that he doesn't have to remember he's God. He doesn't have to make sure we remember that he's God. Because of love, we just want to please do what's best for him. As his friend, as his mother, as his servant, as his lover. That's what he wants from us. So how much trust will be necessary? See, because even most spiritual seekers, when they come to the point of understanding everything material, it's not going to satisfy me. Like Shankara taught, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. It's Mithya. It's illusion. There's nothing there. I just want Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. That's all I want. But they can't get that without Krishna's help. So they want that gyan, they want that mukti. So they give up the karma. They give up running after everything Krishna has. But then they're saying, Aham Brahmasmi. I want to be that. I'm tired of wanting what God wants, what God has. I don't want that anymore. It's not going to satisfy me. I'm Brahman. I want to be God. I don't want what he wants. I want to be him. See? That's the next step. And how do you get past that step? Also, to the point of no. I want to love him. That's bhakti. So he has to trust us a lot. There's a lot of cleansing to do. So that's what we're to help each other come to that point by chanting, studying Gita, helping to experience a higher kind of satisfaction that comes by learning how to give, how to serve to the Supreme Lord. So Atma has something to say.
That's a question, Maharaj. You made such a wonderful point about how important it is to understand, and Krishna, like you said, Krishna himself says how important it is to understand his vibhutis and opulences so that we become fixed in the service. So I'm just wondering, especially with our twisted modern education that we have, a lot of times it seems hard, like when he's, his example that I'm the light of the sun. What we think of as, well, it's, what do you mean? The light of the sun is XYZ chemical reacting with ZYX chemical. That's where the light comes from. So how can we allow ourselves to go beyond that kind of mechanical understanding to appreciate Krishna's presence in these vibhutis, especially tangible ones like that, or taste of water, things like that.
H2O.
H2O, and then some neurons who want firing.
Okay. So where did the H's and the O's come from?
So come brainwashing. No, I just adding to Atma's question, that we get brainwashed with modern education. And then now how to unbrainwash the brainwashing of modern education for us to be able to appreciate the transcendence.
Yeah, if we want, we can do the circular route. We can go full circle of understanding just how ununderstandable reality is. As many people are starting to see in theoretical physics what we consider reality, what we perceive with our senses, is not really what's going on. There are so many unknowns. I haven't read it yet, but if you're interested, there is a book written recently by one of Prabhupada's disciples, which is dealing with these specific topics of all the uncertainties within the world of theoretical physics. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but his name is Vyasaki. And I know you can get that on Kindle. Yes, the American Vyasaki. The Kirtanier. very surprising. See, the term Maya means that which is not. Not this. Maya, not this. So as the Lord is unlimited, inconceivable, his potencies are like that as well. So Brahma Samhita says that Maya is like, the Durga is like the shadow. Chayeva Yasa Gurvanani Bharti Durga. So the shadow of something which is unlimited is also going to be unlimited, right? So that potency can make things appear, can give a causal relationship to things which have no relationship. Such that, this is why constantly new theories are coming every day. That it wasn't really this which caused this. We forgot about this and we have to add this into it. And it's really, this is the way it's going on. And after a few days or a few years, something else is going to come into the equation. Just like, for instance, okay, I was thinking at the beginning of our talk here whether I should have just talked about ISIS or Ebola. So I should say something about Ebola. Okay. Now, when the thing first hit the news, I remember I was in the Grand Canyon beginning of the summer. There was a few hundred people who had it, and about 60% of them were dying. And I remember writing some devotees saying about this, that this seems like an ideal way that it was in response to some of the what did they call it, CDC? Center for Disease Control? Who's in charge of that? Fryer or something like that. So they made some statements about how it's no way, because people were worried. You know, there was a couple Americans there who were missionaries. They had it and they weren't sure they were going to make it, and they shipped it back here, one plane each, you know, with all these special, the whole plane was like, you know, set up, super medical facility to keep that virus in there. And they were making this statements about there's no way it can happen in America. We're just, you know, our hospitals are good, too much advancement, this and that. And so I wrote to a few devotees that this seems like an ideal situation, because it's exactly the same thing they said about the